Lovely. Right. Apologies for the delay. We had another meeting beforehand. So welcome everybody to the Haverhill Town Council's Community Event Working Party on Tuesday, the 10th of October. As a reminder, any decisions or anything will have to be referred to the Leisure Community meeting, or the town clerk can take under relevant delegated powers. Apologies for absence first, please, and Colin number 2.
It'll be Jane given.
Oh, sorry, Jane. Sorry, I lost Jane. Oh, there you are. Sorry, there you are. Sorry.
Hello, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Davidson and Councillor Hanlon.
Lovely. Thank you, Jane. Declarations of interest and requests for dispensation from anybody? No. Okay. Right. Minutes of the previous meal. Put my teeth back in. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 10th of July. Put them up on the screen, please, for us when you can. Hopefully, everybody's read them. Okay, now on screen. First of all, can I have a proposer for those minutes, please? Councillor Miller-Jones, I think I'm just seeing you there. And a seconder, please. Anybody? Councillor Marks, thank you. All those in favour, please show. Have you? We just lost. Oh no, sorry, Councillor Lucrini. Sorry, I just saw your hand go up. So I can see you. Sorry, I've got a big screen here. Sorry. That's great. Thank you very much. Matters arising from those minutes. I don't think there are any. We'll quickly run through the pages that are not already on the agenda coming up anyway. Item 1, sorry, page 1 rather. Page 2, which is Haverhill in the Park, we're going to be coming on to a bit later on. Page 3 and page 4, which is stuff that went on during the summer, and then stuff that we're coming up over the next 2 months or 2 months, whatever. On page 4. Okay, lovely. All right, public speaking, item number 5. To hear from members of the public wish to speak on relevant matters. Is there anybody? Wendy, was there anything you wanted to say in terms of the public? I can't hear you
again.
Oh, sorry, there you go. Sorry.
Am I the only person from the public here again?
Yes.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm just wondering about Christmas again, because last time I came to a meeting, I asked if I could be included in helping with events and stuff for Christmas. I heard nothing. And then I've since heard from some of the shopkeepers that, I don't know who it was from the council, has been round suggesting that we're only having one night for Christmas, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't heard anything again. Been totally shut out once again. And yet I'm trying to put myself forward and help. And it's not getting anywhere.
Okay. I understood that calls had gone out, but can I either look at Sarah or Colin? Colin?
You're very welcome, by the way. I don't quite know, I mean, perhaps we chose the wrong address, but back on the 10th of April, I emailed Starburgers, starburgerstargrill@gmail.com, inviting you to join this meeting, and we never heard back from you.
I definitely didn't get that.
All right, is that not that was the only email we could find for you? Perhaps at starburgerstargrill@gmail.com. Is that not?
Yeah, I don't think that's really, it's not really appropriate anymore, because we don't do the Star Grill stuff anymore. So
right. Perhaps if you could put in the chat your proper email address, then we can include you.
Okay.
So it wasn't for the want of trying. But you may also recall back at that meeting, I don't know how long you stayed for the full council meeting, but that was actually where the proposal to not do the Friday evening, but to condense the event onto the Saturday, to have the charity stalls in Queen Street, and the whole event on the Saturday. The rationale for that was it presented a saving to the taxpayer, and obviously we had to try and make sure we cut our cloth according to our means, but also and this is really awkward because you're an independent trader, but our experience across the whole high street is actually, whilst quite a few independents, particularly in Queen Street and Queen Square, support the late night shopping event, if you like, the nationals just don't. They just close. So I appreciate you're busy in your outlet and aren't able to go up and see what's happening elsewhere. But it's very frustrating for the council that actually a large number of the shops close. And we simply late night shopping.
How many nationals have you got up there then that is different?
Well, if you think about, I mean, Sarah can run through some of the places that would have been that we were asked and said that they're not going to open. But you know, at the end of the day, it becomes almost a misnomer to call it late night shopping if actually those shops are not going to be open. We thought the nationals would, but in actual fact, generally speaking, more independents open, in all honesty. So that was a decision last December. That was ratified in January, and the planning has gone forward since then. And it was Sarah talking to businesses. I think you probably heard from Ellis Interiors, where Sarah visited and had a discussion there about, you know, the fact that we were focusing on the Saturday only.
I spoke to the lady in the sewing shop.
Yeah.
She's very unhappy that you're not doing a Friday night. And it's only
I
on a
went
Saturday.
and spoke. I went to speak to Dave and Sue because I've known them. I know them, so I went to sort of speak to them first. But I'm more than happy to come and speak to you tomorrow or this week and run through the plans again.
Right. I know. Is Sue in the sewing shop then? Is that
It's
Sue?
Sue? Yeah, Sue. Sue's
She's
in the
really
car.
unhappy. She's really unhappy.
Yeah, she's made her feelings very well known.
Yeah. I just don't think you're talking to enough people. I think you're picking and you're choosing who you're talking to.
No,
You've still got nowhere with lights as well. Where's all that discussion gone?
I'm not picking and choosing who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Dave because I've got a relationship, Jane and Jane, because I've got a relationship with them. And then I was going to talk to other people after I've talked to them because I know them, and then work it that way and let all the shops know, and the shops and the businesses know through letter if I can't get to speak to them.
But you were down there the other day. Why didn't you pop in? You won't get a relationship unless you pop in.
No, obviously, but I've got other
I'm
things.
quite happy to have a relationship if you pop in and see me.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to pop in and see you. I just did those two on that day because those are the two I know and I've spoken to.
Okay, can I just interject? This is a public meeting that's going out on YouTube. I think it's probably best that you guys talk to one another and go from there. And then obviously that can be explained why in more detail why it is that we're doing one event on the Saturday, as Colin sort of has mentioned. So if I can just put that to one side for a sec, because I've got Councillor Mason first, then Councillor Miller-Jones.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, so
Chair, sorry to interrupt, Councillor Mason. Just to help Jane out, who's trying to take minutes, what agenda item are we doing now?
Still public speaking at the moment.
Okay, so I just, in terms of councillor speaking on the public speaking, I've not.
I assume you're speaking on the public. You're not, because you're not a member of the working party.
Can I not ask a question that is not not on the agenda that is now of concern?
Yeah,
If you want to speak as a member of the public, then yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that's what you were doing.
Yeah. Can I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's touching upon the point that Wendy was making. I've spoken to a number of traders, and I don't want to go over all ground, but it kind of goes back to the failure of the bid and the vacuum that has been left by not having a bid. I think the bid was problematic, and without going down that road, not having a focus for community events on the high street, moving Party in a Park to the recreation ground, away from the market square, changing the Christmas shopping night, and not essentially taking away another night, and there being kind of a vacuum. Now, I do understand this is a consequence of not having a bid, but there still remains that vacuum, and it isn't necessarily and I do understand it's not necessarily the town council's role in terms of making sure businesses are successful, but I do see it as the town council's role to foster a sense of community and to try and protect an area of the town which is high community benefit, which is of course the high street. So one of the things that I was looking at in terms of the agenda tonight was how much is centered around the town. And whilst maybe no decision can be made tonight, I was wondering going forward whether more discussions can take place about what we can do that is reasonably cost effective, but where we can say to traders along the high street that we are doing our bit. Looking at the schedule, I don't see that there's enough going on. I think West Suffolk could do more regarding supporting the market and traders. But I think as a town council, when I look at our community events programme, it is devoid of enough things that centre around the high street. And I'd certainly like this committee to take that on board and see what ideas can be generated in discussion with local traders to try and increase footfall and support the community aspect of the high street, and a byproduct of that is supporting businesses. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, you had your hand up, but did you want to speak during the actual thing? Because this is the public speaking side of things.
Yeah, I did want to just speak very briefly, if that's all right.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I'm not sort of comfortable with kind of Sarah taking the heat in this way. I see how hard Sarah works, and at the end of the day, none of this is Sarah's decision. This is a decision made by the council based on experience, based on feedback, based on a lot of things. And I just, I know that Sarah is doing her absolute best here, fostering communication where she can. And I just would like that acknowledged that this is not Sarah's, and I don't want to see her scapegoated for this.
Okay, thank you. Right. Is it very quick, Wendy, because we need to carry on. You're muted as well.
I wasn't scapegoating anyone. I'm just saying that no one's listened to me from last time, and we still haven't had that discussion about lights and things, and Queen Street is still getting ignored as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, let's wait till we get to what's being planned for Christmas. And in terms of Councillor Mason's side of things, I think this has been discussed previously, and at full council and other meetings. It's fully acknowledged that we're trying to support business where we can, but in many cases, businesses need to support us as well. We've had similar problems, bi-directional over the years. But I think what we ought to do, if we could talk about the Christmas event now, as I said on agenda item A, the second one, or we can go back to the agenda. would you prefer that we talk about the Christmas event now? So, because that's coming up, and then why about historical stuff in afterwards?
You're asking me?
No. I'm asking members of the meeting.
John, yes, I think out of courtesy to Wendy, let's deal with that.
Okay, right.
And bring that forward if everybody's in agreement with that.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move on to the singular Christmas event then, which is being held on Saturday, 2nd of December, plus the fireworks the same day. Is that you, Sarah? I don't know who's Sarah?
Yeah, well, if I talk about some of the things that I'm thinking about, and then Gary, maybe if you talk about the lights and things like that, is that okay?
Yeah, okay, thanks, Sarah. Yeah.
Okay, so when I went down to see Dave and Sue, and Jane as well, what I did was just talk about the things that I've got percolating, and so in a nutshell, that is that West Suffolk is already having the Makers Market on in the High Street, so it'll be very busy from the get-go on that day. And then I have asked our normal fairground showman supplier, whatever he's called, to populate the market square with the sort of rides you'd get at a steam rally. So there would be a Victorian theme, and we'd have some Victorian Edwardian themed entertainment, and they would focus themselves mainly in Market Square and Queen Street, and that would be flower sellers, and Abbeycroft Leisure are going to do some workshops. And then the idea that I had for Queen Street was to populate Queen Street and Queen Square, to populate that with the charity stalls, which will go down the centre of the road. When I spoke to Jane, she was concerned about the lights because they're still doing the grotto on Friday night. But as I said to Jane, we would make sure that the lights in Queen Street are on for her grotto. We've got a few charity stalls already booked in, but it's all a work in progress. So that, in a nutshell, is where we are with Christmas.
Okay.
And
Gary?
obviously as well, riding from that particular morning and afternoon through, there would be the seasonal launch of the lights on the square and the Christmas tree, obviously at 5 p.m, followed by the usual 15-minute firework display at 5:30 on the recreation ground. Thank you.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Councillor Miller-Jones.
Thank you. Yeah, just a question for Sarah. I was just wondering regarding sort of maybe vendors that we haven't had before, kind of looking at the Victorian theme and stuff. Have you kind of managed to find any sort of, I don't know, like more old-fashioned kind of, I don't know, like craft stores, or maybe sort of food stores? I don't know, like I don't know if we normally have hot chestnuts anywhere actually, but that kind of thing, you know, kind of Victorian-y.
I've been promised some hot chestnuts, and I've got some of the craft people, but there will of course be the Makers Market as well up the High Street, so there's going to be a bit of a crossover. And I forgot to mention that there's going to be a switch on event at 5, which will have choirs and the Walking Nativity. Churches together are doing the Walking Nativity again, so there'll be a fair amount going on, I think.
Okay. Colin, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms for Councillor Miller-Jones, in terms of food stalls, we have to be pretty careful with the choice of all the different stalls we have, because the idea is to attract people into the High Street and Queen Street. Primarily, of course, it's the Haverhill based businesses that we want to benefit from that. And as you can imagine, if I know in the past when West Suffolk have put sort of continental markets on, they've had quite a lot of complaints that businesses who are open every day are saying, well, you're just going to take our business away because people are going to spend their money on those. So we have to kind of negotiate a careful thing of making it different enough to attract people's attention, but actually not to directly compete with businesses that are already in the high street, which you appreciate, and Queen Street, which you appreciate is a difficult juggling act.
Would it be possible for us to sort of try and encourage, to try and encourage the current kind of local businesses like food businesses and stuff to do a kind of, Victorian theme somehow and sort of, get involved in that way? I don't really know how they would do that, but is that something we could do somehow?
Look into it.
Anything's possible. Councillor Marks?
I was just going to say before Laura jumped in, I just wonder whether we can talk to the companies, because, Joe and I, as Joe has just indicated, we have had, we've been called to a lot of people who are very unhappy about the way things are. We're in a very, very difficult economic time for people right now across the board, and whatever we can do to make people feel better. And on that theme, I was just absolutely wondering whether, mulled wine and mince pies, some of them could perhaps have a stall outside their own premises to do very much sort of Christmassy things, very much if we could sort of look at the German theme of how they run their Christmas markets, so the Leckerli and, these lovely sort of very seasonal spicy buns and things, they go down very well. Mulled, I happen to hate it, but it goes down incredibly well. And I just wonder how much we're involving them, whether we're actually saying to them, if we're doing a Victorian theme or any other theme, even a Christmas theme, an elf theme or whatever, would your shop like to do one? Maybe we can look at a whole load of themes and say, would your shop like to choose one of these, so that not everybody is doing the same, but they all have, like one has elves and Christmas and one has mulled wine and mince pies, and so that they all do something that is very Christmassy. And maybe they could actually put out some sort of invitation so that people have an offering at their premises that night, that if you like, a party invitation for people to go. I think we do need to involve them more, not shut them out. I got terrible complaints last year when we put up the stalls that we were blocking people from going into their shops, and that it doesn't seem to matter what we do, we're going to upset people. So I think we do need to involve them as much as possible, and I do support Joe in that kind of argument, really.
To be honest, we're at the beginning stages of the process. I'm working on the Halloween trail and working on Matisse exhibition. And
Sarah, please don't think this isn't a criticism of you at all. I know, truly, I know. And I mean, as you know, I'm happy to volunteer for things for you. I'm happy to go out and do things for you. So please use us as volunteers as well. This is absolutely not a criticism, and I would hate you to think that it is. I love the Halloween trail. I know you're going to be working really hard on that. So this is really just saying, it is really tough. Just on the other side, I'm a landlady, and honest to God, if you heard what I'm going through at the moment with the tenants on the one side, agents on the other, everyone wants to put their fees up, everything is going up. Everybody is really struggling so hard. So whatever we can do to just ease the path for people and make it feel a little bit more inclusive. I think everybody feels very isolated at the moment. I think they feel their problem is very much their own, and we need to make it a bit more inclusive. And last Saturday in the market was absolutely amazing. The atmosphere was supercharged, and that's what we need to generate, really. It is absolutely not a criticism of you at all, Sarah.
Colin?
I was just going to mention, in terms of mulled wine, one anticipates that Nine Jars will do their traditional mulled wine stall. And just echoing what Sarah and Margaret have just said. This is not the meeting to say, well, hang on a second, why haven't we done this? This is a meeting to say, hey guys, why don't we do this? Because this is the whole reason this meeting is being held, is for councillors to suggest things that should be done. And absolutely, we will want to try and involve businesses. One proposal which Sarah and I have discussed to put to you tonight is we're very aware, and again it harks back to one of the conditions about the. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. So it harks back to the using the Friday night as a late night shopping, because one of the complaints we get is that we call it a late night shopping and then we put on the fireworks and drag everybody out of the high street. So people have opened especially, and then they leave. And I think there's one of the things by some of the nationals got a bit fed up. They said they just didn't make any sales on the Friday night. And people don't want to take loads of shopping to fireworks. But so what we saying, and the discussion this time last year, well, nearly this time last year, the December meeting, was that instead of having to hoping people will open especially on the Friday night, they will all be open on the Saturday. So if we can add gravitational pull to the Saturday to pull people in, then the shops are open on the Saturday anyway. They're not having to pay staff overtime or extra without any confidence that they're actually going to make sales to justify being open into the evening. So the question then comes in terms of kind of 5:30 Saturday evening, people are going to be dragged out of the town centre to go up to the fireworks. So that what Sarah and I discussed was whether one of the things when we write to all of the traders, particularly aimed obviously at the hospitality side of things, and as Wendy's here, she can act as a guinea pig for a reaction to this. We were thinking that if we had an agreement with with as many hospitality outlets that are willing to take part on that Saturday evening, if we had flyers to hand out at the fireworks, that there was I don't know, a 10% discount or whatever it might be, for the next 2 hours or whatever it might be, the next hour on the Saturday. So when people leave the fireworks, there's actually something in their hands which is a reason to head back into the town centre and actually spend some money rather than just head home. And so obviously that's a lot of print costs, etc., that the town council would be undertaking, which is absolutely fine. And we can do all of the shoe leather of talking to hospitality businesses, but I'd be interested to hear what councillors think of that, and particularly, of course, what Wendy thinks of that as a trader, whether or not she thinks traders would be willing to offer some sort of universal discount or some sort of special offer, however it might work, so that people could arrive after the fireworks, leaflet in hand, a family discount if they have a family meal or whatever it might be to take away to eat in. That's entirely down to the traders. So be interested to hear what people have to say on that.
Yeah, I'm totally for that, if you can put it on a flyer, because we stay open. We've always stayed open late after the fireworks in the hopes of getting people back in to the Queen Street and come in to eat. They don't want to go home and cook, and why get a takeaway when you can just come and get it cooked for you? So we're totally up for that. I'm still, I know I'm harping on about, I'm still interested about lights that make us look good.
Chair, do you want me to tackle that one?
Yeah, can I just take Councillor Miller-Jones first, come back to you, Colin?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I just in addition to flyers, perhaps, could we have an announcement? So if we have a list of the places who are doing deals and what those deals are, but like sort of, there's whoever speaks before the fireworks, whatever it is, there's some kind of system, isn't there, for if we could have an announcement on that saying after the fireworks, these are the places you can go for sort of deals or whatever on food.
Yeah, we do have a PA system at the recreation ground, of course. Yes, we do.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. Coming back, Colin.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of the lights, obviously the issue we have with the lights in Queen Street is that we have almost all the street lamps have Christmas lights on them. So it would be wrong to suggest that there are no Christmas lights in Queen Street. It has just as many Christmas lights on the lampposts as the High Street. What it doesn't have is a continuous line of the kind of draping P lights. And that's simply down to the fact that there's too many buildings in Queen Street that are not built of something strong enough to take the anchor point. So the buildings that are unfortunate, and I tell you, I've walked the route and in Hope every year, and we did it again last year with Aylesford Electrical, and really looked at how we might be able to do this. But the trouble is that you've got some brick built buildings like Starburgers, then you've got buildings such as the Queen's Head and some of the buildings directly opposite. The height differences mean that you can have one building where you've got your P lights absolutely fine along the gutter, but the next building along, they'd be going right across the windows. And some of those, of course, is accommodation. So you have to then try and adjust the heights, etc. You have large gaps where there's simply there's no way on earth you can get a tension wire that long, that tight, without pulling the front of some of those timber buildings clear off. This is not because we don't want to do it. These are not excuses. These are simply the issues. We cannot do this. We talked to Haverhill Electrical and Rayleigh down in Essex. We made contact with them because they have a very, very wide road. So they have the same problem with the sheer tension of the catenary wires that hold up the lights that go across. And they have demountable columns, like street columns without the street light columns without the lights on top, that they plug into the road along the main road. And then they're close enough that they can zigzag backwards and forwards with all the lights they want. And actually, there's some really interesting stuff you can do with the light columns. I approached Suffolk Highways to ask whether they would consider that at all, and got absolutely zero response whatsoever. Did discuss it with West Suffolk as well, and they echoed our concern that even if we did get a response from Suffolk Highways, that we know about the utilities under the High Street and Queen Street, and the chances of being able to dig the anchors necessary to have the sockets is going to be a real challenge in any case. So we've thoroughly explored it. So you'll hear from what Sarah's described that if anything, we might find that some of the traders up towards the Arts Centre might be challenging the focus that we've put on the Market Square and Queen Street. But in all honesty, I think from Market Square, well, from a bit beyond the Market Square, say from Nine Jars downwards and through Queen Street, we get more engagement, I would have said, with the traders. Queen Street looks great with a market in it. Queen Square, the shops there do an absolute blinder as far as putting stuff on for the community around that area, their grotto, etc. So for us, it's unfortunate we can't do the P lights, but we are putting plenty of stuff into that area.
Right. Anything else on Christmas? No? All right, shall we go back?
Chair, just one
Right.
addition to that is we were asked by the landlady of the Bull pub to whether or not it's possible to extend the Christmas lights to hers, because the Christmas lights stop at the TV and video shop. We don't know of any reason why it can't continue up to the Bull, which is the end of the line anyway. So we'll be working with Aylesford Electronics to make sure there's enough product to be able to include them in that. It's a brick built building. I think they've had lights before, so I think there are actually already anchor points. I don't really know why it was left out in previous years. It used to be included. So when Gary is meeting with Louise from Aylesford to walk the lighting, etc., then we can include that.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it might be something to do with when the freehold was sold.
Don't know. It's from our side. I just have no idea why the lights don't extend that far.
Yeah, I think there was a problem with the one of the landlords not landlords, the people who bought the freehold. Okay. Can we go back to then talk about the anything else on the Christmas fireworks as well, other than what you said, Gary?
No, we're going with our usual provider, and they always put on an excellent performance that will run at least for 15 minutes. So looking forward to it.
And have we decided on a theme?
Not that I know. We had a conversation with the organizer of the fireworks, and he's coming back to us the next couple of weeks because obviously they're full on 5th of November mode at the moment. So we'll try and get that out of the way and then get cracking on that.
All right. Councillor Miller-Jones?
Yeah, what happened to the fireworks being themed with the panto? Because I loved that. That was brilliant. And I probably should know this, but I don't know why that isn't what we're doing anymore.
Themed or?
Yeah, for example, when there was Aladdin, it was like the fireworks had a whole thing where it was like they introduced the different characters of Aladdin with different songs and like different coloured fireworks, and they like told the story with the fireworks. It was really good.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but Sarah, are you going to say something?
It's just we haven't got to that point of the planning yet, so that could be incorporated.
If we could, I know it was hugely popular.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is most of us could never hear it because we were stood out in the road and the speakers were facing the crowd, so we never heard what was being said. Councillor Lucarini.
Yeah, I was just going to say, from memory, I think it was stopped because no one could hear what was being said. You had to be really close to the speakers to be able to hear their words. If you were stood the other side of Camps Road, you couldn't hear anything, and you ended up with just weird gaps in between fireworks that suddenly there'd be silence and nothing happening.
Yeah, that's right. I vaguely remember something like that. Yeah. Thanks, Anne.
Is there anything we can do about that? Because I mean, so in my experience, I could hear it and I was just somewhere on the wreck. But I just wonder if there's anything we could do, if there's any way we could increase the speakers or...
Well, there's going to be a cost to that, of course, because we have to hire most of those equipment in. But equally, as you just said, if you stood on the wreck, you could probably hear it. But there are lots of people who stand out in Camps Road behind the speakers, and that's one of the problems. Colin.
Yeah, I think what we can do, we can have a conversation with the fireworks people. Obviously, the vast majority of the time, the fireworks people actually design the entire show, put the music on, etc. I know in previous years gone past, we've tried to do stuff ourselves and ask them to fire to that. But you know, speaking as a pyrotechnic of like 30 years standing, that is so unusual. The vast majority of the time, the actual fireworks company puts the entire thing together. And last year, what we asked them to do is simply, we said to them, what was the best show you did this year? What actually, in terms of crowd reaction, all the right, worked best for you? Do that one.
Yeah. So I think in more recent years, I think we had more modern songs or popular songs and all that sort of stuff. And you're right, Colin's dead right. You know, I think leave it to the experts to sort out. And I'm not so certain whether, like the Panto this year with Dick Whittington, whether there's any obviously well-known songs. I don't know, that would do. All right. Okay. Well, let's move back to the review of the summer events. Can we?
All right, Chair.
Yes. All right.
There's been a bit of chat or a bit of discussion in the chat, I should say, about the Santa's sleigh. I thought obviously that the round table used to always bring that in, and it's excellent that the Haverhill show are doing that. I don't doubt that it was on the to-do list anyway, but given that we've got Joe here, if we can have a quick discussion about what exactly the sleigh is going to be doing this year generally, and what the potential is, what it can do on that Saturday. Sorry, Joe, I didn't see all that chat. Sorry, apologies.
No, it's okay.
Did you want
am I free to talk?
Yeah, of course you can. Please go ahead.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Actually, I'm here tonight, and I'm missing a meeting. Kelly, Andy Pallison, and Dave Wilson from Drive Green. I've drawn up provisional dates for December. We're also fitting in Keddington, Sturmer, Steeple Bumpstead, and hopefully Withersfield. That's going to be hopefully finalised tonight. The way that I run my committees is I don't make the final decisions. It's a joint decision. So anything I say here tonight isn't the done deal, and I've entrusted the final decision with them this evening to finalise it. But that should be made public very shortly. I wouldn't want to step on the toes of anything that happens in Queen Square. So if we did have a sleigh, which is different from the grotto, Santa wouldn't be at the sleigh. Why? Because he's at the grotto. But of course, there'll be photo opportunities, and for people to enjoy. Now, I've offered that possibly tonight. I would need to then go back to the little committee that we have in terms of how we organise it, just to make sure that everybody was in agreement. But I think it could be really nice on the market square near the Christmas tree, having the Santa sleigh there. And I think that could possibly pull some families in from the fireworks.
Okay, thank you, Joe, for that.
But if you could approach the Haverhill show formally, doing it here.
Yeah, okay. I think that's Sarah's and Gary's department. Formally do that. Colin, can I ask you?
Yeah, I just thought, Chair, as Joe is here, if he would kindly convey our warm congratulations for a well-deserved award, and I know you had a hand in it for the community award. Kelly was presented with an award by the Suffolk Community Foundation for her volunteering for things like the Haverhill show, etc., and a lot of other things she does. I don't know whether Joe wants to add any more to that, but we should certainly, as Town Council, want to add our congratulations. It's well deserved.
Can I just say thank you for that, Colin? People like Kelly, I mean, Kelly would say that she is just one of a number of people in the town that do an awful lot, and she's very, very humble about the things that she does. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate volunteering across the town. And yes, the focus was very much on Kelly, and I'm incredibly proud of her, and I think we should all be, that we have people in the town like Kelly who give up so much for so little time. But it is also an opportunity to celebrate volunteering generally. But I will most certainly pass on your sentiments to Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Colin, for that. I apologise. I probably should have brought that up, but I've been a bit out of it the last couple of weeks. Right, so we can move back, as time is getting on, back to the review of summer 2023. So, big day out to start with. Sarah, is that you?
It is neat. It seems so long ago. I can barely remember it, but it went well. There were lots of people there. I think we got a lot of good feedback. And the same goes really for all the fun days we had across the summer. So the Clements Fun Day, the Chalkstone Fun Day, the Big Day Out, picnic in the park. They all went well. We got good feedback for all of them. That's about it, really.
Yeah. Gary, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just add that obviously putting on these events takes a lot of time and effort, and working in close partnership with obviously lots and lots of people, such as the park rangers and the Chalkstone and various community groups across the town. We obviously had to take the decision to push back the Chalkstone session due to a very inclement forecast for that particular day. In the end, that day wasn't particularly as stormy as was expected, but I think it was the right decision to put it back. As the day that we hosted the Chalkstone Fun Day, it may have had a smaller turnout of stalls, but I think the whole day was very warmly received. The weather was much better than if we'd have just turned up on the original day and had rain on and off all day, and the attendance would have been very low. So I think that decision to move the Chalkstone Day was the right one in the end. And I thank everybody who allowed us to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all those. Any comments, anybody on the summer events at all?
Are we going to touch on Haverhill in the park?
We'll do in a sec. Yeah, just going for those ones for the time being. No. Oh, sorry, Colin. Sorry.
Yeah, if there's no other councillors wanting to speak, I'd just echo what Gary said in terms of the whole point of these events is about community engagement and getting people together. If it was just the town council doing it, then it would be even harder work and longer days than Gary and Sarah and all the team had to put in. We are very, very lucky to have the support of the community in putting on those events. Chalkstone did a huge amount of heavy lifting for their event. It was great to see so many groups come out for the picnic in the park. And also I thought that this year, the Clements, we had a really good turnout of local groups as well. The Men's Shed particularly, it was good to see them make a real splash. So, you know, these things are all about trying to build stronger and more resilient communities. And the great news is that the St Felix Church are up for helping us put on an event there for that side of town as well. So that's going to be really good news.
Yeah, I echo that. I did help a very little bit, very small amount this year for those events. Probably a precursor to maybe I shouldn't have done, but anyway, we'll worry about that later. Right, should we move on to picnic in the park? Not picnic in the park, sorry, Haverhill in the park. We haven't got Steve Marsh, have we?
No, we haven't got
Gary,
Steve.
I was going to say, Gary, you did a lot of work on this, so you'd be a good person.
If I just kind of obviously at this moment thank Steve Marsh for all his work and delivery on Haverhill in the Park, because it really doesn't happen without Steve and what he has to do, and he really leads very well on this. I won't speak obviously in terms of budgeting or anything because he's not here to deliver that kind of information, but it as I know that all councillors are aware that it does take a lot of work to put that event on, and we have a lot of very gracious work with people like the Air Cadets and volunteers and councillors, and I thought the volunteers really stepped up this year, so I'd like to put it on record of my thanks to those councillors and local people who helped us deliver Haverhill in the Park. Their support was tremendous. Just to put down and let everyone know, the attendance in terms of through the gate was slightly lower than the previous year. 2022, we had roughly about 8,000 clicks through the gate. This year, we had just shy of about 6,000 clicks through the gate. Obviously, you have to take into account that people come in and out of the site. So when we say 6,000, that's not likely to be 6,000 people across the weekend, but I can give you some figures for this. In terms of Friday, we peaked at around about 550 for the rock night, with about 1,500 across the day. Saturday, we had over 3,500 people across the day, with almost peaking at about 900 on Saturday night. And Sunday, we had roughly about 900 in attendance, with a peak of about 200. So we're getting people in through the door. We would have liked to see a few more people through the gate, but it's certainly the reaction from everyone who did attend, public, councillors, staff as well, is that it was very warmly received. We worked hard on licensing in order to obviously ensure that we were in accordance with all our licensing decisions, such as sound levels. So at the end of the day, I would like to state on the record my thanks to everybody, including obviously people on this podcast, on this chat ourselves. And if anyone has any particular questions, I can try and answer them without Steve being present. Thank you.
Yeah, just before going to Councillor Mason, I just want to, one thing, because Steve's not here, I think it would be nice to know where we stand, particularly on this one, because it's a major outlay. Where we stand, I believe we're still waiting for some bills to come in, but when we do have all those bills, whether we can have an idea of budget versus expenditure to see. I think we're not far off it, I believe, from what I'm hearing, which is fine. I would echo, unfortunately, I fell ill the day afterwards, which is not killed me off, but not far off it. But that was it was a good week setting up and everything, and it was a good show, organised by Steve and a lot of other people behind the scenes. So I would like to echo that as well. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. I have a great pleasure of attending all 3 days of a part, as not a helper, but as a member, just a member of the community, enjoying what was put on. It was put on with commensurate skill, I thought, with real quality. A lot of thought had gone into the programme. Each day had its particular theme, and there genuinely was something for everybody. I thought the aspiration of putting on a festival was met by its delivery in terms of organisation and credit. I know Steve got a lot of recognition on the day, but I know many officers and volunteers were involved in making the event successful. So firstly, thanks to everybody involved. Just as a member of the public, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's a great shame that not more people attended. The one, maybe two flies in the ointment for me is I have had comments from businesses on the high street, and I know the festival isn't for the local businesses, but of course previously it had been held on the market square, and there was some knock-on benefit footfall for a number of the local traders. That didn't necessarily translate in the same way with holding it on the wreck. I also had some comments from residents about the fact that they didn't like the prices. Everything was so expensive, and when they were on the marketplace, they could get a drink from the pub and then go and enjoy the music. And I know there's an issue of sorry guys. Can't turn it off. That was Kelly. In terms of the knock-on effect, I think there was some people that were put off actually going in because of the price of the food and the price of the drinks. And that might be anecdotal. It might only be a few people, or it might have been translated to more. Interestingly, the Rugfest, I think, also was similarly affected. And I don't know whether there's something going on about festivals and not attracting the crowds as perhaps they once should. But those are my main 3 points. Firstly, thank you to everybody. secondly, impact on the high street, and third, the cost for people, a cost of living crisis. It isn't a cheap thing to do if you want to eat and drink there. Thank you.
Yeah, I know from a town council food point of view, we did work hard to make sure that we were not overpricing things. I didn't really use the other stuff, but I personally didn't find it a big deal. I think one of the problems with the market square, and I understand what you're saying, is the established, if you talk, let's say the alcohol businesses, made no contribution to the event whatsoever. At least from the stuff that we get from Haverhill in the Park, we do get some money back from those traders in terms of commission or whatever you want to call it. And the other thing we have, and I noticed it this year, that the cleanup of Haverhill in the Park was substantially less than we ever did on the market square. With there's no glass, which was one of the cases we had with particularly with the pubs and that sort of stuff. But let me get on to Councillor Luccarini first of all, then Councillor Marks.
Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, I thought it was a really good event. It's a shame that not more people attended, and I wonder next year whether we need to go a little bit earlier on the advertising. But equally, it was a very nice weekend in terms of weather, and I do wonder if lots of people at the last minute went away, which is going to affect us. In terms of, I'll try and cover the points Joe just said. In terms of the food pricing, that's always going to be a difficult one, because like this year we had the town council running the burger bar, and the prices were a lot cheaper. I can't see we could make the prices any lower there. That's almost impossible. But there were comments that people preferred the burger of us pay a little bit more. So it's always going to be that thing that you can't please everyone. So I personally, I don't think any more changes are needed there. The drink pricing I didn't think was unreasonable. The only thing is when it's on the market square, you have got Wetherspoons, and Wetherspoons are so cheap in comparison to every other pub. So I think that's what people are comparing it with, and you can't compare against Wetherspoons. Their pricing is unbeatably low. In terms of kind of supporting the high street, I get that moving it away from the market square, the local pubs don't benefit from that night. But I think it should be noted the number of local suppliers that Haverhill in the Park uses. We use far more local suppliers than when it was on the market square. From the catering to the setup, there's a huge number of suppliers involved, and they're all local businesses, and we're helping to support them. So that's fantastic. Yeah, another great year, and hopefully we can build on it again the next year. So in terms of local businesses, maybe if we can keep growing it, we can involve more. We can have more suppliers involved with the event.
Lovely, thank you, Aaron. Councillor Marks.
Yes, I actually have to say, slightly contrary to Joe really, is that people did comment to me this year that they liked the fact that the council did that burger bar, because last year apparently there was a burger bar there that was hellishly expensive, and your burgers were very high quality and they really liked them. I think that's indicative of the number that you sold given the number of people that attended the event. It was a bit sad that I was working in the little cafe place, and they decided not to put the ice cream machine on. That was a terrible mistake. We must have had 200 or 300 people come and ask for ice creams, and we weren't able to serve them because you decided not to put the machine on. And could we ask, please, regardless, next year? Because people, when they've got 3 or 4 kids, the first day, I think the ice cream van didn't turn up anyway on the park. And then when it did turn up, when they've got 3 or 4 kids, it's a lot cheaper to come over and get them. From us, and a lot of people were still using the other facilities outside the park. So I think you were aiming not to give competition to the ice cream van who didn't turn up the first day, and then the second day not to be competitive. But actually that's counterproductive, because some of those people would just choose not to buy ice cream. They wouldn't be able to afford it from the van. So if we can think about the fact we need to support everybody really. But I can honestly say that everybody was, overwhelmingly delighted. They thought it was the most amazing event. One criticism was an awful lot of people didn't know about it. Now, I know you're going to say, well, we advertise it here, we advertise it there. Clearly, we need to advertise it more. So somehow we need to get that message out, and maybe going back to people like Wendy, maybe put flyers and ask them to hand them out when they are doing their meals, and ask the high street to put those up. Maybe they could do some comparable thing, a flyer that makes an offering for their place and advertising the event at the same time. But I did get a lot of, I put it on Haverhill Solos, I've got 300 people on there, and most people came back and said, what are you talking about? We don't know about it. So I think we're not hitting the spot with advertising. Thanks, John.
Oh, thank you. I think
sorry, John.
Sorry,
John. Can I just,
Gary.
for the record, can I just make the point as well that across that weekend, the town council ran multiple sites. We had the art centre was open with the exhibition. We had the zone was open fully. We were running the kiosk, and we also had a music festival taking place. I think about 95% of town council staff were involved in some, probably even higher than that. I can't think of many people who weren't involved in any capacity across that weekend. So when we talk about can we supply this, can we supply that, moving forward, I know it was an unusual summer when we had the exhibition, but if we're going to do similar events next year, I think please can people take into consideration that we're, should we say, in that zone of full capacity. That would be really great. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to just say, we did do a lot of advertising for it. I think Councillor Green is probably right. We probably need to start a lot earlier. And you can't get to everybody. I mean, the number of times that people come to me and say, oh, I've not heard anything about this. And I go back and say, well, it was posted on this date, that date, this date, that date, and that date. And they say, oh, I never saw it. Well, it's like reading the newspaper, isn't it? You tend not to read every single word in the newspaper. I know it's difficult to do that. I understand what you're saying about flyers. That may be an answer. I certainly think we probably need to put more on the notice boards and things around town, which we have outside the town centre. I'm talking about, not necessarily the ones in the town centre. We were a bit lax on that, I think, this year. So that's something we could pick up on. In terms of numbers, one of the things I did say on the day, I was quite surprised. I drove out the site. I can't remember where I was going. I think I was going to get some water for the crew. I drove out of town at 6 o'clock, and there was hardly any cars around the town. It was dead the whole weekend generally, and I think that's what happened. The weather got up. People wanted to get away for the weekend or go on holiday or something because they could. It's probably the first year they've really had where they're not going to be worried about COVID or anything else like that. And also, I think the question of, we talk about cost of living and everything, people could see energy prices starting to go down a little bit and started to realise, actually, I might be able to do something. Certainly a few people I spoke to said exactly that. The other thing about the, if you like, the loss of thing from the town centre, I was actually quite surprised about how many people were walking back to the town centre after being at the event and staying in the town centre. So it was a constant flow. I think sort of Gary alluded to it with his figures. It was a constant flow of people coming and going all the time. They'd come and watch one particular act and then go and say, oh, let's go and get some, I don't know, go to Starburger or wherever it might be. And I think that's what was happening. But I think overall we need to try and attract, a lot more people. That may be down to the acts that are on. I don't know, maybe, we need to announce them a bit earlier. I don't know, different choice. I have no idea, something like that. So that's my on that. Anything else on Haven in the Park?
Hello.
Yes, okay.
If Steve was here, the one thing that I think he would mention, and I think you've just mentioned it in a slightly different way then, John, was he would like to book the act sooner.
Right.
I think we've discussed this before. But if I can just leave this for the record, that booking the acts much earlier would give us a much greater chance of securing the acts that we wanted as headliners, and not then have to kind of search around. I think Steve would say that would be the one thing that he would like people to think about. Thank you.
We did speak about having a wash-up meeting as well, outside this meeting.
Yes. If we could have some kind of debrief relatively soon, that would be grand. Thank you.
Councillor Lucarini, Aaron?
Colin might be able to answer this one. Is it possible for us to give some kind of budget now to be able to start booking acts? Because we don't need to pay for the whole event. We only need a little bit of money for the deposits. Could that be something we almost take out of reserves now and then put back in next year's budget? Or
Thank you, Councillor Lucarini. Chair, are you okay for me to answer?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I was just waiting for you.
It can't be on this meeting because that particular specific item isn't on the agenda. I was just mid-opening the draft agenda for full council to add that in as a kind of a provisional agreement by the council to allow Steve to book. I think at the end of the day, it will be penciling stuff in. I would hope that if in January, when the budget is set, if it's not possible to afford the to put on the event, then we'd be able to withdraw from those agreements without any penalty. But if there was a penalty that far out, I would expect it to be pretty low. So I'll put that on the agenda.
yeah, thank you. I believe Steve did have a figure in mind for almost just booking a few key acts. He almost don't need to book everything now, but he's having those headline acts reserved. Otherwise, it gets difficult for him.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Lucarini. Good idea. Well done. Right. Nothing else on Haverhill in the Park. That's great. And nearly finished. Halloween Trail, then we're going back to item 8. Sarah, I guess that's you again, is it? You're muted. Oh, age-old phrase nowadays. No, not working.
Sorry, I had other windows up in front of my.
That's all right.
Yeah, Halloween Trail. So this year, as you know, the budget is much smaller than in previous years, particularly with all the cost of living and all the cost of the acts have gone up, the cost of the technical stuff has gone up. So in comparison with previous years, the budget is pretty teeny tiny. However, I've done my best with it. And so one of the ways that we've tried to get the cost down is to do a much simpler route, a much shorter route. And that also has the benefit of keeping Christine and the park rangers on side because there's less work for them to do. And so we've got a route that basically goes from the top of the avenue over that main bridge through the back path and out again onto Millennium Meadow. At Millennium Meadow, there's going to be a few rides and stalls and hopefully the Town Council burger concession again. The acts are ranging from werewolves to vampires to children of the corn, witches, so all sorts going on. We're running a sort of a baby trail at 5:30 which doesn't have any performers, but just the props, the spooky props. I've taken the cue from what you've said, and it's more scary, less arty this year. The queue we hope to have on the inside of the park, running behind the children's play area, which will help for safety and get people out of the road. Gary's going to take a lead on doing the staff, so he can give you an update on that later if you want it. And that is a little vignette of where we are with the Halloween trail.
Okay, so I know it's a massive job, especially in you back to East Town Park as well. And as you say, the budget has gone down as well. But let's see how it goes on this year, and appreciate your work and everybody else's work is going to be on it. Unfortunately, I won't be joining you this year, I don't think. Gary, did you want to say anything?
There's not too much to say with regard to staffing. Thankfully, we do have quite a few people to choose from. So we've got quite a decent selection of volunteers coming from both council and also quite a number coming through the East Park Town Rangers. We also have a number of air cadets who will be on site, plus also they'll all supplement the town council team who'll be on site obviously as well. So I think we'll be envisaging, if we include all artists and stewards and staffing, that there should be roughly about 70 people on site, and that just tells you what an undertaking it is to deliver this particular event. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Councillor Miller-Jones.
Yeah, hi. I'm really looking forward to this. We had to miss it last year. I'm not sure about the year before, but this year we're going away briefly for half term, but we've planned our whole trip around making sure that we're around for the Halloween trail because Cal really wants to go. I remember a couple of things that really stood out to me from a couple of years ago or a few years ago, like a couple of the sort of I don't know what you call them, scares, actors, whatever, which were the really cool tree people on stilts that when you were at a distance, they looked like they were trees because the lights were in the trees and on these things, and then they moved. That, like, Cal still talks about all the time because it like freaked us out. And also some creepy like insecty people that were like rolling around on the floor that I actually hated and like couldn't look at. And I was just wondering if either of them will be there because they were my favourites of the things that I remember at the trails that I've been to. I also just wanted to mention, for those who didn't know, that Get Suffolk Reading will be doing a thing at the story chair, a little scary stories things just for councillors who wanted to know that and didn't know and maybe wanted to let other people know.
I'll be going to Sarah, but I just in the old age thing of I don't want to reveal too much at the moment, but Sarah, could you just answer the first part?
Yes, well, Cal will be pleased because the trees are coming back.
There you go. Okay. I sort of knew that because I paid the invoice then. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Appreciate that. Anybody else got anything on the Halloween trail? The only thing I would just mention while I'm here and I remember about it, you mentioned about the possible burger sales thing. Are we going to have our usual chef there? You know, the one who's looking at me top left of this screen at the moment. I don't know if he's. Are you going to nod your head, Colin?
My top left is Jane. So
sorry.
She has an apron, I'm sure.
No. Okay. The only reason being, if we're going to be talking about till systems, we need to think about them. That's all. Before I forget.
Mel, I don't know what I'll be doing that evening, but Mel will be the one in charge. So
yeah, okay, that's fine. That's
great. Have we mentioned, sorry, Sarah, if I zoned out for a millisecond, that Centre Stage are being very helpful with providing a number of scarers, etc. So we should sort of note that we're very grateful that community partners are helping yet again.
Yeah.
And we also through them, and I think we went to them, Sarah and Gary went to them, Sarah probably was one who went to them, to be fair, that it's actually, we're engaging the community in delivering the event as well as actually enjoying the event.
Oh, and I've also that's to remind me, I didn't mention that, and Men's Shed are also doing a little something, hopefully.
Who are?
Men's Shed.
Oh, Men's Shed, sorry, missed that bit, sorry. Good, that'll be good. I'm sure I'll come down and look at it. I just won't necessarily be helping. Okay.
Go anywhere where you're going to get a shock, is it?
Well, that's true. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Right. nothing else. So Halloween Trail's the next one up, obviously, end of the month. We're trying to work. Is that half-term week? That week? It is half-term week. Okay, that's fine. Right. If nothing else on that, we'll go on to agenda item 9 with dated next meeting, Monday, 22nd of January. And finally, we'll close